So, Lee, welcome to
Hey,
our.
nice to be here.
Yeah, you're from Canada, right?
I am. I live in the Vancouver area.
Ah, near Seattle.
Yes, about 2 hours from Seattle.
Hours, yeah, yeah. And is it Victoria Island is also near, eh?
Well, you have to take a ferry to get there,
Okay, okay,
like a
okay,
boat.
okay,
So yeah, it's not as close as you might think. Yeah. So,
okay.
but yeah, Vancouver Island is there.
Nice city there, I heard, Vancouver.
Oh, it's a beautiful city. It's a beautiful. I used to live in Toronto for years and years, and it's much less congested and much cleaner. But I still love Toronto, and I miss my family and my friends there. So.
But Toronto is more rock city than Vancouver, right?
Well, definitely more of a nightlife, but there's definitely a scene or was a scene in Vancouver. Vancouver
Yeah.
really kind of got plugged into the alternative, spawned a lot of alternative bands, I think, in the 90s. But so yeah, definitely Toronto was more of a hard rock city for sure.
Like flying over Seattle, like Nirvana, Alice in Chains, Pearl Jam, and then you had Vancouver on near, so it's easy. The
Yeah.
music a little bit, yeah, yeah, okay. But Toronto is always known for me more like bands, a lot of AOR bands, and melodic rock bands. They are more from Toronto, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, for sure.
Okay, cool. Anyway, it's still nice to live there in Canada. Still a nice lifespan there.
Well, I mean, besides everything being messed up from COVID right now, yeah, I mean it's good. I mean, we unfortunately Canada right now is in the middle of a third wave with COVID. So Toronto just went into lockdown
Uh,
and I think Vancouver's probably not too far behind. So, thankfully, my husband and I, we live on a big acreage property, so we can go out in our yard and walk around and be outside and be safe, right? And we have lots of beautiful provincial parks right near us. So we're okay in terms of, we don't get to see other people, but we're not just stuck in our house. It's like, I can't imagine what life would be like if you're stuck in a little apartment, right? So
yeah, same.
yeah,
I'm here in apartment, and
yeah.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
so we're
It's
we're, we're
also
doing
nice.
okay.
Well, and the kids also.
Yeah, I mean, it's scary. I mean, every day they go to school, right?
Mhm.
And they keep telling us, the health advisor here keeps telling us that schools are one of the safest places. But yeah, I'm sending my kids to school loaded up with hand sanitizer and masks and
Yeah,
everything to make sure that they're 100% safe. They're wearing masks in school full time and they're with a small cohort in school so that they aren't exposed to a greater number of people, which so far, knock on wood, it's been okay for them. But the thing that's been good for us is I have a recording studio, small recording studio here, and we have a rehearsal studio. So we're still able to continue to make music throughout this, which has been a blessing. Because if you're not able to, I think I would go absolutely bananas if I crazy if I wasn't able to work on music right now, right?
is it? You tell me you have a rehearsal studio. I didn't know that, and some. But you also record a lot of bands, and a lot of bands practice at your place. It-
Well, no, it's mostly just my band and it's
oh,
mostly
okay.
recording here. We're not an open house, and especially during COVID, we have had other people, like my husband has different side projects.
Okay,
We have
cool.
had various musicians record and rehearse here in the past, but not right now during COVID. So, but yeah, so right now it's mostly set up for Lee Aaron to do recording, and even our rehearsing hasn't been as uh, we haven't had the whole band here. My guitar player is from Toronto,
Oh,
so he hasn't felt safe to get on a plane yet and come here. We're going to see how things work out. Hopefully by the summer, we're all going to be completely vaccinated.
oh.
And when and if we are, we're thinking perhaps late July, August, we can go into the studio. Yeah.
So let's a little bit back to the very early start because I like to introduce you. You are Lee Aaron, the
Yeah.
metal queen from Canada. Uh, Please introduce yourself to our viewers. Would maybe most people would know you, but for those young young kittens who don't know, who's Lee Aaron?
I'm Lee Aaron. I'm from Canada. I am a rock singer who has, I'm working actually this summer, my 17th album will be coming out. And I do a unique brand of melodic hard rock.
Hmm.
And in 1984, I made my sophomore album, which was my second album, was called Metal Queen. And there was a song called Metal Queen. And that album in particularly sort of catapulted me to notoriety with legions of hard rock fans around the world. They loved that song, they loved that album. But I've tried to continue that legacy forward in continuing to make rock and blues infused heavy music that is my own unique brand of music. And it's pretty cool. You should check it out.
I know.
And we're a fun band, and I have a great live band. And yeah, and we've toured Europe lots, and I hope to come back real soon.
That brings me to my second question, because about the background band that's coming. What made you to start singing, and how did you always find a good background band? Because actually, it's Lee Aaron and the band. Uh, yeah, how did you find this great band? And is it always the same band, or is it just you? Your drummer is always there, I know. But please introduce your band to our watchers.
Well, I've had various players over the years. I mean, the bands in the very beginning of my career and the musicians. I went through a lot of musicians in the beginning of my career because I was broke and I couldn't afford to pay them very much, obviously. So that was difficult. So by the mid to late 80s, I had put together a great band, and I worked for 12 years with a guitar player named John Albany, who I co-wrote many of my hit records with. For the last 20 years, however, I have had a fairly steady band. I've worked with John Cody, my husband and drummer, for 21 years now. My bass player, Dave Reimer, very well-known bassist in Canada. He played with Bryan Adams and Barney Bentall. Great singer, great bass player. He's been in my band for 17 years. And Sean Kelly, who was kind of ended up being John Cody's replacement. We started working with him about 7 years ago, and we just connected instantly. He's a great player. He used to play in, there's a Canadian artist named Nelly Furtado. I don't know if you've heard of her. She's
I
quite
know.
famous. And yeah, he was her guitar player for years and years, but he also has played in a few different hard rock bands in Canada. But he joined my band 7 years ago, and he is a full-fledged member and co-writer, and I can't say enough good things about my band. They are stellar musicians. They're some of Canada's top rock players. And I'm so blessed. I'm so lucky to have them in my band. And we're just a great songwriting unit, great performance unit. They're just great live. In 2019, I put out my first album, my first live DVD with companion audio CD. So it's a live CD audio and DVD, and it's called Live in Germany, and it's was filmed during our tour in Germany in 2017, and that's a great representation of my band and what we can do live. So yeah.
Cool. Actually, also something back to the beginning. How old were you when you really started? I heard 15 or something with Metal Queen, with the first album. You were only 15, right?
Yes, well, it's funny because people talk to me and they go, man, like we thought you were going to be really old. And I'm like, no, I'm not that old yet because I started so young,
Yeah, you're
right?
still young.
I was making albums in my teens. So yeah, I was really involved in musical theater when I was young.
Hmm.
Broadway musicals with, that I wasn't on Broadway, but we were the local theater groups that I was working with in the Toronto region were doing, off Broadway kind of stuff. And I was always involved in that. And when I was 15, I was in a musical production.
Yeah.
In my local community, and a bass player from a local band saw me and said, wow, that girl's got a powerful, amazing voice. We should get her to audition for our band. So I came and I auditioned. My dad drove me to the rehearsal, the audition, and he was like sitting there in the corner, am I going to let my daughter join a band with a bunch of, high school guys, And but they auditioned a lot of people, but apparently I had the best voice. because some of the younger guys in the band were like, they didn't picture having a girl in the band, but I ended up getting the gig and was very, very dedicated and motivated when I was really young. I loved music, and we started writing songs and being very serious about our music when we were like 15, 16. And by the time I was 18, I was recording my first album, which I co-wrote with a bunch of notable Toronto players. And my first album came out when I was 19. Yeah.
Okay. So when you were here in Tilburg, do you remember that gig where you were a support act for Bon Jovi, right?
Was that the Paparinga Festival in 1985?
Oh no, yeah, in Belgium. That was in Belgium.
Yeah.
I remember that you played there too. I wasn't there, but you played my hometown as support act from John Bon Jovi.
Okay.
At the Fahrenheit tour from John Bon Jovi, you were a support act.
Yeah,
And
that's
in my
right.
hometown, Noorderlicht Club. Do you remember that? The
I
Noorderlicht
do.
Club?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, Belgium rock fans were just
That
like,
was Dutch. That was in Holland. That was in
oh,
Tilburg.
okay. Okay. That was Holland. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was an amazing tour, and I do remember.
Yeah.
And yeah, what can I say? Super fun times and amazing fan. I love European rock fans. They're just, I always felt in Canada and that Canadian fans and American fans looked at me like I was this cute girl that sang rock. But when I came to Europe and Holland and Belgium, those areas, I always felt that they were just such music fans that they always looked at me like a great rock singer that happened to be a woman. So sort of the opposite of how I felt in Canada.
You were more appreciated, but for your talents than for your looks, and because
Absolutely, yeah, I felt very respected, and that was a cool thing. Yeah, I
yeah.
really liked it.
And I wasn't because now we just talking about Bon Jovi in that time, and he was just before his big breakthrough because New Jersey and Slippery When Wet, then it was the big boom for John Bon Jovi. You were just before. How did he choose you as a support act? Did you do many shows with him, with Bon Jovi?
Yeah, we toured for about 6 weeks with Bon Jovi in 1985. So it was one tour, but we toured throughout Europe, and we also ended up in the UK and Scotland with them as well. And the truth is, I don't really understand how all of those politics worked back then. We were still finishing up our third album, and my manager was talking to the label, who was talking to the European label. We had just gotten signed to Virgin through their subsidiary label 10 Records out of England, and they were all strategizing about getting us on a tour with the right band. And at that time, Bon Jovi seemed like the perfect fit because we were sort of the same brand of melodic rock, right? And so it was a perfect fit.
But you always, like with Lee Aaron, I follow you for years, but the first one was really heavy. The debut was really heavy metal. Then it started more into the glam AOR melodic rock thing, was more later. And later your previous album was more and now you also mix a lot of blues and jazz and stuff like this in it. I hear that at least. So I like it. But you as you tell me, just told me your husband was just a collector of music, and it seems you're also very open-minded with music, and you're influenced by a lot of different styles, because I hear that also in your music, and especially in the later albums, because the first album was pure powerful heavy metal, and it's later on you did a lot of things in your later albums.
Yeah, like I think probably my heaviest albums were Lee Aaron, my debut album, and Metal Queen. But through even those heavy albums have a lot of melodic content on them. I mean, I've never done the kind of hard rock or metal that is, like Cookie Monster screaming. You know what I mean?
No Slayer.
No. I've always been singing, and it's always been very melodic, right? I think when we're younger, we're definitely more close-minded in terms of our musical spectrum.
You were
And
too?
oh yeah, when I was young, it was like rock or die. You know what I
Oh
mean? If you're
yeah,
not in my camp, man, you're a traitor. You know,
yeah.
it was really immature and stupid, pretty much. But we're like, oh, she's. And then you get older, and you're like, oh man, Joni Mitchell is great, and Ella Fitzgerald is amazing. Listen to these old Miles Davis records. Listen to this guy play trumpet. He's like so badass. Or even like, you look at the history of music. So I guess what happened for me, my husband being a collector, I have a library of music history to look into. And so I started going, rather than just looking at current music, I started going backwards and researching music history and going, well, I love Led Zeppelin. They're amazing, but where did they get all these blues idea? Well, they stole from Howlin' Wolf and Chuck Berry and, all and BB King and all these old blues guys. They stole stuff from these guys. And I went, and then I stumbled on like, I don't know if you're familiar, an artist called Sister Rosetta Tharpe. I mean,
Ooh,
she was playing guitar, hard, like electric guitar, and singing badass gospel before any of the female rockers were doing it. And I was discovering artists like these going, man, this is like so cool. And so over the years, all of these influences have crept into my music, so much so that in the year 2000, I actually made more of a purist jazz record because
yeah.
I wanted, and 2004, I made sort of a black jazz hybrid album because I was just exploring these genres of music, and all of it, I think, has made me a better singer, a better songwriter, a more well-rounded artist in the end. There's very few acts or bands artistically that can keep making the same record over and over and over again for year after year and be successful. I would say one of the few artists that can do that, AC/DC. They
Motorhead.
just keep making the same record. But you know what? They're brilliant. They're
Yeah.
brilliant. But David Bowie didn't make the same record year after
Oh,
year. The Rolling Stones haven't made the same record year after year. They made even pseudo disco records in the late 70s with
yes,
Miss You
true.
and things like that. They did. Their sound has evolved and changed with current trends over the years, but they still always sound like the Stones. So I look at myself as more of an artist like that. And you know why? Because I'm a music fan. I still love music and current music. And when I hear something new or something old that's inspiring for me, I'm influenced by that. I think there's nothing wrong with continuing to have influences throughout your life, right? That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
No, but it's also you have children. One is 15. You already told me that your son. But are you also when your kids come with some music? Do you also are you also open for music from this decade? From the 2000s. You also think there's good music now. You think, oh well, I like this, or so I like. Are you still open for the newer
Yeah,
things? About now?
absolutely. There's a few artists that I think are really great right now. Don't laugh, but I think Billie Eilish is totally badass. Like I think it's not heavy, but her lyrics are very heavy. I feel like she saved rock and roll, and her voice is so unbelievably unique. There's
Mm.
not a lot of artists that come along that are like that. I mean, there's a lot of shite out there too. There's a Canadian artist called JJ Wild who's really good. There's a Canadian band called the Glorious Sons. They're amazing. Um, Rival Sons. I'm just trying to think of other bands. There's an artist from Australia called Courtney Barnett, who she's kind of like alternative folk rock, but her lyrics are so unique. St. Vincent, like that woman can play guitar. Like she's like a quirky PJ Harvey. Like there's a lot of things that are new that I think are really, really great. Yeah,
Cool to hear. Not
absolutely.
many old school musicians are still open for everything is new. That's really I like it that you are so open for that. I really
So,
appreciate that.
and
That's
here's another thing. I'm currently scheduled to record with the Canadian Brass. They keep making, they're a brass ensemble that keeps making records, and they just do unique projects. And I'm going to sing a Weekend song, you
Oh,
know, by the Weekend. So I'm like, they asked me to pick, do you want to do Neil Young, Gordon Lightfoot, or the Weekend? And I listened to all the songs, and I'm like, I can, Blinded by the Light by Weekend, I hear all of those cool 80s synth lines that he does as brass lines, horn lines. And I'm like, that would be so cool. So I'm totally open to doing really unusual projects that are cool, you know?
okay. So we can next Christmas, we can expect a Christmas album by Lee Aaron.
Well, I put a Christmas album out in 2020. Did you know that? So
March.
here's some new news for you.
Sorry.
I put out an album called Almost Christmas in Christmas 2020. It was an independent album, and it was only released on my website.
Oh,
So
praise
a
God.
little group of about 400 or 500 people got it, okay?
Yeah.
Because we had limited copies. But this year, Almost Christmas is being re-released on Metalville worldwide, globally, with a new cover and 2 bonus tracks. So there you go. And it's a rock and roll Christmas record. It's really fun.
Oh, well, now we have promoted that already, so that's yeah. Okay. Back to your basic. What music influenced you, and what were the first heavy rock band artists you liked or looked up to? Because you're a female singer, so I already had something in mind. But just tell me.
Um, when I was young, I was really influenced by Zeppelin. I was really influenced, probably the women that made me want to be a female rocker was Heart, Ann and Nancy
Really?
Wilson.
Ah,
Yep.
okay.
You know, when I was 14 years old, my father worked for a college in Toronto called Humber College. And they made this crazy decision in the mid 70s. They were going to get rid of their whole vinyl library. The radio station at the college said, I'm going to get rid of my whole vinyl library. And they went to 8-track. So, yeah, that was very short lived. But they just had these albums sitting in a hallway. So my father picked them. He thought my daughter might like this. He put them on his
Yeah.
trunk, brought them home. And so in this pile of records, I found the Straubs and David Bowie and Steely Dan and Elton John. And in that pile of records was Heart, Little Queen, and The Runaways.
The Runaways. That was a little
And
bit
I was
what I.
like, yeah, and I was like, whoa, this is what I wanted. It just resonated with me on every level. I was like, this is the brand of music I want to make. So yeah, definitely Joan Jett, Lita Ford, Ann and Nancy Wilson, Janis Joplin, Susie Quatro. Those were all some of my female influences. Yeah.
Yeah. It was in the 80s. The heavy rock scene was mainly dominated by men. Was it hard to struggle for you to be accepted back in those days as a professional female singer?
Yeah, you know, because the 80s were an era where all of the male bands really objectified women, like in their videos, it would be like the women would be, it's funny because it was the guys that were in spandex and makeup, which was very feminine, but the women would be running around in bikinis and being sprayed down and washing cars. And you remember what the 80s were like, you know? So women were very, very objectified in the 80s. You know, there was like a sexual double standard. And I found that the hardest part of that was if you were an attractive woman, regardless of your talent, if you were attractive, it immediately nullified your talents. Like more attention was given to the fact that you were female than the fact that you were talent. Like people didn't even know that I wrote my song. Like I've always been a songwriter. And I've always been involved in the production of my albums. I've produced my last 6 albums, by the way. You know, and people always, people would call my manager and go, wow, who wrote the hit song for Lee Aaron? And he's like, well, she wrote it, you know, actually. And so yeah, there was sort of that double standard where if you were, the record company would be wanting to exploit the fact that you were attractive, but in the fallout effect of that was that a lot of people thought you were just a pretty face that sang. You didn't take you seriously as an artist. So I felt like I was always trying to climb above that battle in the 80s, you know? I feel like I've risen above it now. Like the 90s, the women that battled against that and worked so hard in the 80s opened up all the doors in the 90s for artists like Alanis Morissette and Avril Lavigne and Garbage and, you know, Shirley Manson and Garbage, all these 90s acts that spawned all these female guitar players, songwriters, singers that were taken seriously in hard rock, right?
Mm-hmm. So you're very, yeah. I really, I really, I think you have a good knowledge about music. That's for sure. I see this already in school. Because after the 80s, you changed also your way of singing a little bit into a more variety of different styles. What kind of music would you relate to the most, and what would you like to see your children do musically? Because I know you have children, and are they also do they also have musical skills and stuff? Yeah.
My 16-year-old daughter is an incredible little singer. She's
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah, and the funny thing is, she's totally into musical theater. So a couple of years ago, she had the starring role locally with her theater company in The Beauty and the Beast. She was Belle. She was so good. Honestly, I don't think I've ever been so proud. And currently, she's in a musical theater troupe, and she has one of the lead roles. She's doing Newsies. But they're going to be filming it virtually because of COVID. Yeah, she's been in High School Musical. I'm just trying to think. She's been in, Annie. She's done tons of things over the years. She's got an amazing voice, and she's an amazing little actress. But she thinks she's really, really rebelling against her mother by doing theater music because it's not. She's like, I don't like rock and roll. She likes she kind of likes softer alternative is her thing. But our 15-year-old son is he loves punk rock. He loves punk rock. He's learning to play guitar, and his favorite band in the whole world is Green Day and Blink-182.
So there's 90s bands a little bit. So it's 90s, yeah, yeah. Well, it's cool, and I always see like children have to do what they want. They have to follow their own path and do their own thing, like we also did, I think, because my parents also didn't like the fact I listened to heavy metal, and I don't know if your parents liked it, but
Well, to be honest, I had really supportive parents, and I think I'm very lucky that they supported me no matter what I decided to do musically. And after you become, I don't know if you are a parent, but when you're a parent, you've worked with children, obviously. As much as you try to mold them into being little prodigies of yourself or into trying to influence them, they are their own people, and they have their own little spirits, and they are going to become who they're going to become. My biggest, thing, I want my children to grow up to not be drug addicts or not be in therapy, hopefully, and to be, responsible citizens and taxpayers. But beyond that, they're going to be their own people, right? That's just the way it is.
If they are lucky, that's the most important. Healthy and lucky. Yeah. During all the years, there were many lineup changes in the Lee Aaron band. Are you still friends or in touch with some past members and what they do nowadays?
Yeah, mostly through social media and Facebook. One of my former drummers, Randy Cook, is in LA, and I believe he's in different bands and playing sessions. John Albany, my former co-writer and co-producer for many, many years, 12 years, he's in Nashville, and he has a studio called Sonic Eden, and he does a lot of recording projects. In fact, I think just before COVID, Leonard Skinner was in his studio recording. And whom else? Do I stay in touch with, mostly, again, one of my old drummers, Barry Connor, is in Toronto. He's in a band called Toronto, in Toronto. We still connect virtually. And, yeah, one of my old guitar players, George Bernhardt, I believe he's also in LA. And I think the most recent band he played in was Rick Springfield. So a lot of the guys that I've worked with have gone on to do really great things. Yeah.
About your upcoming album,
Yeah.
Radio On, what can we expect from this new album? I actually feel a very strong soul vibe in your new songs, and I can tell you I liked it. So yeah, it's a really warm sound, really warm soul, yeah, a little bit soul, yeah. In my
Soulful.
opinion,
Well,
yeah, a
it's
little.
definitely, the Rolling Stones are soulful and rock and roll, right? You know? Uh, so yeah, I think on this album, a couple things make it warm. Number one, we were so lucky to work by the time we got to the mixing stage. I called Mike Fraser, who has most recently mixed AC/DC Power Up,
Okay.
and we're able to work with him as a mixer on our mixes, and he just brings such beautiful sounds to the table. So I feel extremely blessed to be able to work with him. But yeah, the band and I locked ourselves away for a weekend to write songs, and we pretended we were a teenage garage band and just wrote songs that made us happy and made us feel good and that we thought our friends would think are cool. And I mean, I think you can hear all of our influences on this album. I think you hear a little bit of glam rock. I think you hear a little bit of soul rock. I think you hear a little bit of, um, you know, uh, everything that ranges from, kind of almost like a Fleetwood Mac sound to a Rolling Stones kind of sound. It's definitely a rock record for sure, but it's got a lot of nuances and color on it.
Yeah.
And I wrote a piano ballad and played piano, which is actually one of my label's favorite songs, so that they want to put out as a single. So that's exciting.
Yeah. Because that's my next song. What is there a certain song on the album you wish the fans would listen first? Which is the song that's most close to your heart?
On this new album,
Yeah.
Um, I don't know if I have one particular song that's the closest to my heart. I do like the ballad. The ballad is called 21,
Yeah.
and it's about it. Have you heard the digital press kit and heard the music? Oh yeah,
Yeah.
you have, obviously, right.
I
So
wrote a review already, so
yeah, it's a song about, it reminisces about being young and about getting older and more mature, but we all still feel 21 in our heads, right? It's like our bodies change and our lives change, but our minds kind of stay there. And a lot of those memories that we embraced and we have, you think back on those things from when you're young and 21 and they feel like they were yesterday, right? And so it's a sort of a beautiful ballad about the nostalgia of youth, right? Um, Another song that is, fairly dear to my heart is a song called Wasted, which starts out very soft and beautiful, and then it turns into a sort of a screaming rock song. And it's all about the juxtaposition of addictions in families and and about confronting that head on, which is it's a bit of a heavy topic, but I wrote the lyrics in about 5 minutes for that one because it was something that I thought was pretty relatable for just about anybody in the universe. Everybody has had a family member usually that struggled with some kind of substance abuse, right? So, yeah. So there's a couple.
oh. Now,
I
well,
only, I only have about 5 more minutes, Marco, because I have another
okay.
interview. I'm just letting you know,
Okay.
okay? Yeah.
Then we go a little bit faster through the questions. How much impact does the COVID-19 pandemic have on your musical career? And do you miss live on the road?
Oh, I miss playing live so much right now.
Hmm?
It's going to be so amazing to come back. We just had another festival pushed into 2022. Um, so, I mean, that's the negative impact is we can't play live. The positive impact is we all bumped up our home studios and we're doing a lot of recording and a lot of writing right now. So I think every musician in the world is writing a new album.
Yeah,
So
I think that's
yeah,
the thing with the COVID. Yeah.
yeah. So we're making a lot of new music. So that's the positive thing.
Okay, next question. Do you like to play in Europe? You already told me you did. And what are your favorite countries' festivals to visit?
I love Europe. For me to pick one favorite territory, that's going to be too hard. I love Germany. I love Switzerland. I love Holland. I love Italy. I love England. Each place in Europe has its own unique heritage and culture. And there's something that I love about all of them. Truthfully, for me to ask me to pick probably wouldn't be fair. I you know, I really do love them all, you know?
We hope to see you back. And then,
Yeah.
yeah, we go a little bit now because I have three more questions at least. So,
Sure.
what does your life look like these days? What type of music do you listen at home? You already told me you're so variety of styles. So let's skip this. And then I also read on the internet you're married to your drummer John Cody.
Yeah.
You have two children, right? Well, one a boy from 15 and a girl from 16.
Yeah.
And are they proud to have such a cool rocking parents?
Well, no. My daughter says to me the other day, she goes, Mom, my friends follow you on Instagram, and you're not supposed to like everybody's comment. I go,
Uh,
what do you mean? She goes, well, I said, I thought it was, no. I'm going to turn my ringer off.
yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. Didn't
No.
realize my phone was still on. She said, you're not supposed to like everybody's comments. And I'm like, why? I said, I thought it was connecting with my fans and it was polite to like everybody's comments. She goes, so according to my 16-year-old, that's bad social media etiquette. And so she's like, I'm like, am I embarrassing you by liking people's comments on my Instagram? I don't even understand.
Like everything, it seems.
So
Yeah.
our children are kind of at the teenage stage where everything we do embarrasses them. So
That's
I think
teenagers.
I think eventually I'm going to become cool again. So I'm waiting for that day to happen.
You are cool. Okay,
Yeah,
and
I think I'm cool.
the last question. What was the best memory in your career? And are there still any goals you still want to achieve?
Um, yeah, I mean, I got a lot of great memories in my career. Uh, one of my fondest live performance memories was a festival we played in, I believe it was Austria, and it was up a mountain. It was called Rockin' the Rock in the Rock or Rock in the Mountains or something like that. I can't remember, but it was on a mountain called Kipsteinhorn,
Okay.
and it was they cable carred all the equipment up there, and they could only cable car about 5,000 fans, but it was such a beautiful, incredible festival, and the stage was set up in a way that it framed this mountain behind us, and we went skiing in the Alps the next day. So that was like, it was just, I will never ever forget that show because it was just the first time I'd been to the Swiss Alps, and there I am, I'm playing a show on a mountain. It was incredible. So that was a favorite memory. Another favorite memory would be, getting my first gold record, and also one of my prized possessions. A couple things. I won a Songwriters Award in 1990 for What You Do to My Body, which was a big hit in Canada. So I was given finally recognition for my talent. Obviously, was a Songwriters Award. And I won 3 Toronto Music Awards for Best Female Vocalist, which was they were vote by the fan base. So I was chosen by fans to win that award rather than a political music board, right? So that was a real honor to receive those awards. And do I have any more goals? I just want to keep making great music. I want to keep producing great records. I want to work with amazing people. I was fortunate, like I told you, to work with Mike Fraser on my last album for mixes. And we plan at this point to go into the studio with Mike Fraser to make our next record. So I'm getting to this point where I'm getting to work with tons of world-class people that I love. So that's really exciting for me. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, thank you very much, Lee. Let's make let's make a picture for the Facebook. I follow. Uh, yeah, I horns up. Okay, thank you very much, Lee, for your moments, and it was a lot of fun. And I hope when you play in Europe, I try to come to the show and we can meet, maybe personal. I don't know, but who
That would
knows?
be amazing. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Good luck with the next interview. And I was very happy to talk to you because I always liked female rock singers as a child and still do. Thank you very much. Your was really a lot of fun, and keep rocking. Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much.
Marco. Thank you, Marco. You're awesome. Thank you so much for having me on your show. All
Thank you
right.
very much.
Peace.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.